Yo, 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 what's going on? What's going on? Beautiful beautiful people. I'm Terrell, Hall of Fame, D9, TBKC, and all that sweet, beautiful, wonderful shit. Man, I thank y'all once again for all the support. Rave reviews on the Friday lives. Some of y'all like my comedy. But once again, I just want to say thank y'all, man. I thank y'all for the cash apps. I thank y'all for the liking and the subscribing. Subscribe for live notifications. I guess that's the thing with YouTube now, that they only want to do the live notifications. So if you haven't been getting them, subscribe for live notifications too. I'm gonna do my best to let y'all know what it is. But it looks like Friday I'll be able to do it again. I thought travel was gonna mess with that, but we're solid, you know. My life, man. But I tell you what, my daughter actually put up a post earlier. It was on Facebook, and it was funny because her Facebook post actually talked about what she wants to do with her life work, and it's basically studying genetics and research into altering the genetic makeup of wild animals to make them, able to be domesticated a lot easier. And of course, you will always have those people who go crazy with this thing, and you shouldn't mess with anything wild and this, that. Well, I mean, in some cases, maybe I would agree or whatever, but that's what she wants to do. She's a student at Ohio State now. She can do what she wants to do, and I think it's a pretty miraculous type of dream to have, and something that you go into. But the funniest thing is, I talked about this earlier, and I heard people, well, that's sort of just saying, oh, that's a stupid dream. Let me tell you guys something. We deal with dogs, and I rarely talk about education and this thing like that. But some of the things that I studied was far out there. But if you believe that something like altering the genetics of an animal to change its behavioral patterns is so far off, think about how far we've gone in medicine. And there's some things that people don't keep in touch with, but there's some things that happened that were so popular that we remember. But we've actually gotten to the point of where scientists can grow actual human tissue, no problem. We've seen a mouse have an ear grown on his back. One of the more simple things that we do, but we don't think about how incredible it is just the fact that we have broken the genetic code for DNA, that we can single out one person out of billions of people, that this is your code. This makes you unique out of all of these people. Other things that we have done in medicine, which generally when you talk about altering genetics, it always starts with an outside source of identifying, the genes, and then using medications to alter, behavioral patterns in the brain, and finding out how those medications can alter our brains, our behavior patterns, and not to mention that, but also just other things. Now, and I'm just tying all this in together because it was an extraordinary conversation I had earlier. But say, to Jada's point of what she wanted to do, people think that it's like some sci-fi out there thing that you can't do, but you have to remember, we've already broken a code on cloning. Now, in the process of cloning, you can see a lot of different things behind cloning and the genetics of these particular animals. Cloning research has already started to reach towards singling out certain characteristics of an animal and seeing if they could isolate those characteristics and possibly take away characteristics that are, let's just say, unwanted characteristics. And it's been very controversial at times because there's been talk of human cloning, to where if a person is prone to be, say for instance, you know, to have certain cancers and certain issues like that, how would you alter the DNA makeup of this person so that they are not prone to have this, and basically switching body parts and switching different things. Like, so for instance, you know, if a person was diagnosed with lung cancer, you know, could you go in there and find their genetic makeup early enough, clone and clone a version of them, and take away the part that would allow them, you know, basically to grow a person that doesn't have the same issue with lungs that they have. This is already research that's going on, people. So when you think that things are so sci-fi that it can't happen, we've already looked into different things of cloning animals to make them smaller. So all of the research that you think that doesn't go on, it actually goes on. It goes on at a high level. I remember it was about the early 2000s when I started hearing about, you know, the genetic, you know, the genetics things that they were doing with different plants. And, you know, you think back to the late 90s, maybe early 2000s, if someone told you, you know, that they would be made, especially in the mid 90s, if they told you that they would be making apples that taste like grapes, and these things are growing but they taste like grapes, or let's say grapes that taste like cotton candy, you know, you would have told them they were lying. You know, actual grape that tastes like a candy, you know. But this is the advances in all types of genetics, and it's so much further than we believe. We typically only learn about things once it's been tested to a point that we feel like it's safe. So there's a lot of things that are going on, like the growing of organs, you know, the making of organs and different things of that nature, that will probably be, you know, in the next 10 to 15 years, that will change modern medicine. So to talk about, you know, finding, you know what I'm saying, the different zones in the brain, or the different, you know, altering of genetic makeup that we could do to the brain to change behavioral, you know, the behavior of a wild animal, it's not that far out of the reach. Like I say, things have already been done with medications, and it's already a blueprint to what parts of the brain, you know, activate aggression, what parts of the brain do this, what parts of the brain do that. And it's a lot deeper than we even get into that, you know what I'm saying, as far as the hemispheres of the brain and different things of that nature. And we, you know, genetic geeks, we look into these different things, you know, and we try, you know, to, you know, do a little bit of research ourselves and stay up on these things. You remember I talked about Secretariat having a genetic makeup that allowed him to have literally, I think they said it was 2.5 times the lung capacity and the cardiovascular capacity. His heart was actually bigger. Nothing was wrong with him. He just had the innate ability to process oxygen and not tire out, more so than any other horse. Well, there's already been testing where they're trying to figure out, through some of his lineage, you know, his grandkids, great grandkids, and different things, to isolate those genes and be able to clone it in a horse. There's already several, I think it's polo players down in South America that are already playing on their polo teams or whatever it is with cloned horses already from some of their better stocks. So this science and the money that's being put into this science to alter animals is very, very heavy, whether you agree with it or not. I know a lot of people are going to be yelling at the screen like, stop messing with nature. But, you know, I say all that to say this, is that genetics are very, very heavy. It's a lot to be learned in genetics. Even the simplest ways that we do with dogs, you know, as I've told you guys before, as I preach going towards the perfect dog, sometimes even in our own world, we underestimate the abilities and the capabilities that we have just as breeders to play with genetics, to understand genetics. And we're at the most simplistic level because we tend to have to wait for results to isolate a gene or to also eliminate a gene. And the only process that we have in doing this is to seriously say, hey, that was a BS, I can't mess with it anymore. Whereas, you know, science has a lot more abilities, and now we're starting to get the abilities with embark tests and having a heads up on certain, you know what I'm saying, deficiencies and malfunctions that might go on in our dog's genetics So, you know, when you look at dogs, and I often use dogs like the Doberman that were massive combinations of different dogs that became so consistent that you can barely tell the best ones apart from the other ones. You can do that inside this breed. You can do that with health. You can eliminate issues with health. We can isolate, you know, genetics through our breeding process, and it's been proven through many breeds that you can make this breed very, very identifiable and very, very consistent as a breed, that everything in this breed goes hand in hand, and we start seeing one type of dog, one very, very healthy type of dog. And at that point, we're just perfecting that one dog, you know, and that's what you've seen with the other breeds. But it takes time, it takes discipline, and it takes consistency. And with all that being said, you know, Jada's topic was a very interesting topic. But in our dog world, of course, we don't have the labs and we don't have all the technology, and we're not going that far. But I will tell you guys that with genetics, it's not as simple as you think, and it's not, you know, as complicated as you think, you know. And I'll explain that by just saying, some of you believe that you can cheat the game by, say, for instance, I take a healthy English Bulldog and I take a healthy French Bulldog, and I'm going to mix that with a healthy American Bully with great conformation and all of this, and I'm guaranteed to have a very, very nice exotic that's healthy and this, that, and the other. If that was the case, all dogs would be healthy, because the origins of what all of these dogs that we have now, if you go back further enough in all of their pedigrees, there were healthy dogs there. But the way genetics work is that there are so many underlying things that you may mix a bunch of healthy, great conformation dogs, and you can come up with some absolute train wrecks, because especially when you're mixing breeds, there's a lot of genetics there that aren't programmed to go with each other. So for instance, if you are making an English Bulldog, this has been years and years of breeding to program genetics to work for the English Bulldog. Now, after 100 years of programming to this breed, you want to just throw all of these genes into another breed, or maybe 2 or 3 other breeds, and what happens is a bad reaction that sometimes you end up with dogs that look like exotics, and those exotics are showing, you know, the abnormalities and the dysfunction of the genes that happen in many animals when you put different animals together. This is why it's very, very important to stay consistent with a consistent set of genes, so that the manipulation of those genes can be more plausible. Because if you're not, if you're adding a ton of things to this, you are making a math equation that's so complicated that it literally will take decades and decades and decades to figure out. But if you keep, you know, say for instance, you take a bunch of average healthy dogs, and they might not be the bulliest of dogs, but you stay on a consistent path to enhance the bulliness throughout selective breeding, and now you have the same gene pool, and you know the issues of this gene pool, you know the good points of this gene pool. Over a span of 10 years, you'll make great leaps and bounds. Over a span of, say, 15 to 20 years, you'll make significant leaps and bounds to where you're getting the size that you want, but you still have the health that you want, you still have the structure that you want, and you're very, very knowledgeable about what's in your dog. What we see in the American Bully right now is we see a bunch of people who are adding a bunch of things in there and making this where it's literally a 40-50 year process to clean up some of the trash that we've done to this breed. And you say, and you're like 40-50 years, that's ridiculous. But the thing of it is that some of these dogs are in such bad shape they should never be bred, you know. So if you did try to, say for instance, start weakening the genes of some of these dogs, this, that, and the other, if you were very consistent, you could probably erase a lot of their issues within a decade. But the problem with the bully community is that we believe in compounding it, and I hear people say, oh, I'm line breeding such and such. Well, he throws bad hips, and you know, he throws bad feet. Oh, I'm line breeding this one, he throws this issue and that issue. I'm line breeding this one because I want that look, but I'm gonna put some more clean dogs into it. That's when it becomes a 30-40 year process, because you keep putting the bullshit back in there, when really the true formula for this is just to get rid of it. Honestly, get rid of it, start all over, get clean dogs, get a good clean gene pool, and move forward from there. You know, I could go on and on and on and on and on about all of this stuff, and there's some very interesting things that could get complicated, but also you know, would spark the brain with different animals and different things that we've seen through genetics, and some of the tests and the studies that have been shown about genetics. But that's not easy to do in a YouTube video. But I do encourage you guys to read into different studies on genetics with animals to get a better understanding of how genetics work with animals, and educate yourself if you're going to be a breeder and working with the genetics of animals on how, you know, to get the best out of your dogs and have a better idea at least on how to get the best of your dogs in your program going forward for the next decade. And yes, I keep saying decade. If you are a breeder and you're not planning for the next decade, you're not a breeder. You're just someone who's letting two dogs fuck. Into the and with that, I'm out of here, man. God bless all y'all. You know, hopefully y'all having a happy holiday. Call your loved ones. Let them know you love them. Until next time, much love. Peace.